Today we're diving into an absolutely classic short story by Alphonse Daudet called The Last Lesson. It's set way back during the Franco-Prussian War in 1870, a really chaotic time in Europe. But what makes this story so powerful, and why we're still talking about it today, is that it asks one single, gut-wrenching question. I mean, really think about that for a second. What if you woke up one morning and were told, that's it. Starting tomorrow, the language you grew up with, the one you think and dream in, it's illegal. That's the emotional bombshell at the center of the story, and it sets the stage for a day that changes one young boy's world forever. All right, so let's meet our main character. He's a young boy named Franz, and right now, he's in a situation we've all been in. He's late for school. And not just late, he's also completely unprepared for a test on participles. You know, that super tricky part of French grammar. He hasn't studied one bit. And you can just feel the struggle going on in his head, can't you? On one side, you've got duty, school, and that awful lesson on participles. But on the other side, well, the whole world is practically begging him to play hooky. The sun's warm, the birds are chirping at the edge of the woods, even the Prussian soldiers drilling in a field nearby seem way more interesting than facing his teacher, Hamel. But despite how tempting it is, Franz manages to resist and starts running to school. As he gets closer, though, he starts to feel that something is off. The usual hustle and bustle of a school morning just isn't there. It's quiet. Too quiet. On his way, he passes the town hall, and he sees a small crowd gathered around the bulletin board. Now, you gotta understand, for the last 2 years, that board has been the source of nothing but terrible news. We're talking lost battles, military drafts, you name it. He wonders what kind of bad news it could be now, but he's in too much of a hurry to stop and find out. The real shock, though, comes when he actually gets to the school. Normally, the place is buzzing with noise. You could hear the great bustle from out in the street. You know, the sound of desks opening and closing, kids shouting their lessons together. But not today. Today, it's dead silent. As quiet as a Sunday morning. It's just eerie. So, he peeks through the window, and what he sees just adds to the mystery. First, his teacher, Hamel, is dressed in his Sunday best, this beautiful green coat, and an embroidered cap that he only wore on inspection days or for special prizes. And then, the really strange part, the back benches, which are always empty, are filled with the old folks from the village, all just sitting there, looking incredibly serious and sad. Franz is, of course, terrified he's going to get a serious scolding for being so late. He creeps into the classroom, expecting the worst. But Hamel doesn't yell. Instead, he just looks at him and says, very gently, to take a seat. And then, he makes an announcement that finally explains everything. He says, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine." And those words hit Franz like a thunderclap. So that was what was posted on the bulletin board. That's why the town elders are here. And that's why his teacher is dressed up. It's not a celebration. It's a funeral. For Franz, that news is just a total shock to the system. In that one single moment, everything changes for him. His whole view of school, of his teacher, of his language, it all gets flipped completely upside down. And the change is just instant. You know those grammar books that he thought were such a pain, so heavy to carry? All of a sudden, they feel like old friends that he can't bear to say goodbye to. He's just hit with this huge wave of regret for all the time he wasted, for every lesson he skipped to go look for birds' eggs. And what's really interesting is that Hamel says it isn't just Franz's fault. He says everyone shares the blame. He even blames himself, saying, "I often sent you to water my flowers instead of having you learn." He blames the parents, who would rather their kids work for a little extra money. And he blames this very human habit we all have of putting things off, of always thinking, I've got plenty of time, I'll learn it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow has arrived. And out of this moment of shared regret, Hamel starts to explain the story's most important idea. He begins to talk about the French language not just as a school subject, but as something much, much more, as the very soul of their identity. And then he delivers this incredibly powerful line. He tells them that when a people are conquered, as long as they hold on to their language, it's like they have the key to their own prison. Now, he's not talking about a real key, of course. He means it's their key to freedom because it's the one thing that keeps their culture, their history, and their identity alive. It's what holds them together when everything else is trying to tear them apart. You can just feel the passion and the heartbreak in his voice. In this final hour, he praises French as the most beautiful, the clearest, the most logical language in the entire world. He begs them to guard it, to never, ever forget it. This is about so much more than grammar now. It's about pride and heritage. It's about everything they're about to lose.
So M. Hamel teaches them one last time, a lesson in grammar, then writing, then history. And for the first time in his life, Franz is listening with every fiber of his being. Everything suddenly makes perfect sense. It's like his teacher is trying to give them every bit of knowledge he has before he has to leave forever. But time is running out.
And then it happens. The church clock begins to strike 12. And at that exact same moment, you can hear the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers returning from their drill right outside the window. The new reality has arrived. The French lesson is officially over. M. Hamel stands up from his chair. He's deathly pale. Franz says he looked taller than he had ever seen him. He tries to speak, but he's so choked up with emotion he can't get the words out. So he turns to the blackboard, picks up a piece of chalk, and with all the strength he has left, he writes 2 words. Vive la France. Long live France. He doesn't say another word. He just leans his head against the wall and makes a gesture with his hand, telling them, "School is dismissed. You may go." Wow. The last lesson is just such a powerful story about how we so often don't truly value what we have until it's about to be taken away. And it leaves us with a really important question to think about. If this happened to you, what part of your own heritage, your own culture, what would you suddenly realize you've been taking for granted? What's the one thing you would miss the most?